Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of JKL Media. I am Jesse. Joining me, as always, is Karen
Hello.
and Lou.
Hello.
And we are doing double duty as we've done a couple of times lately. We did a Stephen King podcast and a JKL Media podcast. And this week, we're doing a Set Lusting Bruce and a JKL podcast because unfortunately, if I get a pick, there's a good more than 50% chance I'm picking Bruce Springsteen themed. So whether my comrades in arms wanted to or not, we spent the time watching Bruce Springsteen Letter to You. This was a documentary that came out at the end of 2020. It was recorded in the fall of 2019, where before the pandemic had hit, and there is a sense of jubilation. This is the first time that Bruce and the band have gotten together in a studio in years. And there is an undercurrent of we're going to record this album, and then next year we will tour. And
Yeah,
didn't happen. Karen, why don't you start? Quick thoughts.
I loved the musicality of this movie. It really did, like we also talked about Western Stars, which I think was more storytelling. And this I think was more like a celebration of the people around him, the E Street Band and the people who have made an impression on his life over the years. And I think that's what makes it a different experience for me. But it was very cool.
Good. Lou?
Yeah, I think if you're a big Bruce Springsteen fan, you'll probably lo love this documentary. If you're more casual, I think you'll find it interesting. If I had started watching it earlier in the week, I probably would have done it in chunks as opposed to trying to get through the whole thing in one shot because I just think that the songs, I find this with Springsteen since he's gotten older, they all tend to sound the same to me. So I don't really get that excited about each individual track. But overall, it was well produced. I think there's an interesting choice of shooting it in black and white for the most part. And I also think there's a missed opportunity that he could have fleshed out more of the E Street Band members as opposed to focusing more on himself. So it comes off of it as a bit of a vanity project for me.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on the black and white? Expand on that a little bit.
It's an interesting style choice. I know Roy Orbison did a black and white album as well, video as well. It's, I guess it gives it a sense of timelessness. I guess I found it interesting given the subject matter about aging and death and the fact that if they're not playing music and you just look at these guys, it says, boy, there's a bunch of old geezers just having a party or something like that, right?
Yes.
But once they start playing, it kind of transforms them and they've all become like these younger versions of themselves. So I found that stylistic choice interesting. If I had my druthers, I probably would have preferred it to be in color, but or parts of it in color, or like maybe the sections, the outdoor sections could have been done in black and white because it was mostly snow, so that would have
Yeah.
worked fine. But yeah, it was an interesting stylistic choice.
Yeah. Karen?
Yeah, I feel about the same. I think there's definitely a time and a place for black and white. And I think he's talking about losing people in his life for the most part. I think that's the gist of it, right? That
Yes.
he's getting older and he's losing a lot of friends. And so I think that the starkness suited that. I agree with Lou, though. I think a little pop of color here and there would have been cool because when they're recording, they seem so happy. And I just
Yeah.
would have liked that reflected in the actual like color of the
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, that's a good point, Karen. I think if they would have gone to color when they were actually playing the songs, that would have been a nice stylistic choice too, because then it brings them all to life. Like when they're at that level, it would have been a nice contrast between they're just gabbing and jamming with each other.
Yeah.
So a couple of things in the background, and then I'd love for your thoughts. Bruce Springsteen was doing his Broadway show, and historically there would be people lining up the entrance before and after the show, hoping to get just an autograph, a few seconds with him. And a guy handed him a guitar, and Bruce went to autograph it. And the guy said, "No, that's yours. I made it for you." And he was from Italy. And Bruce has said when he was promoting this documentary that he said it was a really nice guitar. And he started playing with it. And that's was one of the things that led him to doing this album. The other was, as he talks about it, George Thies, who was the guy who formed the first band he was part of. And they were in high school for 3 years, which, as he says, is eternity in bands in high school. And he was there. George had died of lung cancer. He was there at his side when he died, and it hit him. I'm the last man standing. No one else in this band is still alive. So he's writing songs about death and the grief. So I assume you both picked that up, but any thoughts on this as a theme, Karen?
Yeah, you could tell that that his sadness was very much injected into this music, and a lot of introspection. I find that his music tends to be very personal, and I think this was almost another level of that. He was talking about things that have impacted him in a very deep and visceral level over the last few years. And I think looking at your own mortality is definitely, it's sobering. And I do think that he's looking at that and he's saying, what impact have I made on throughout the years? What impact have I made? And I think with his friend, there was a part of him that said he could have made a bigger impact, and I'm sad about that. I don't know if I'm reading into that, but I think he wanted some people in his life to shine more, and they didn't end up having that recognition. At least that's what I get from how he talked about his old band. And yeah, I think it's also pretty poignant that Clarence Clemens' nephew is part of his band as well. I think that's awesome that he kept it in the family, as it were.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that reminds him of the people he's lost throughout the years.
Yeah. Lou?
Yeah, can you just repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Lost the thread there.
Yeah, no, as he's talking about his friend dying.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
so the idea that he is dealing with endings and death on this.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So I think one of the characteristics of this documentary is that it felt like that they expected the audience coming into it knew about the album and all that. So when I first started watching it, I didn't know what it was about. I had no clue. I hadn't read anything about it. So he played the first song, and I'm going, okay, that's an interesting song, but I didn't know what the context was until they finished it. And then he started talking about the band and that. And I said, I wish he would have told me that before I heard the song, because then I would have listened to it with a different mindset. So I think that was a bit of a miss there, at least for me, as somebody that I didn't even know about this album. So I was a little taken back by that. However, once you get past that, then the songs had more poignancy to them, because I knew what he was talking about, and his ruminations about aging and death. I think we all feel like, because I think I'm the oldest one in the group, so I'm probably more aware of it than you guys are.
So I'm 66.
Oh, okay. I'm 67.
Okay.
So
we're close. Yeah.
So the unfortunate part of life, and you don't always have to be our age to experience this, but it's an unavoidable aspect of life as you get older, is that you start to experience loss, and lots of it. You lose friends, you lose family, you lose like people that you've admired, Robert Redford just passed away this week. We're recording this on September 21st, 2025. All these famous people are passing away, and they're part of the touchstones of your mental mindset, of the lampposts that you have as you go through life. So all these things are happening, and I think the documentary did a really good job of capturing that. And it's interesting that because I mentioned to Jesse before we got on the air that I just saw The Long Walk, and like with Jesse Springsteen, I'm always bringing King back into it. But that whole aspect of dying, it plays a major part of that movie. The difference there is that all the participants that are dying are very young, so they don't even have that arc. But the message, interestingly enough, from these two projects is the same, is that you have to basically seize the day, enjoy life while it's happening, because once it's gone, and who knows what happens to you after you die. Springsteen talks about whether you go to another existence or whether you're just become part of the ground. And with turtles, I think you mentioned turtles. I don't know why I mentioned
Turtles all the way down.
Turtles all the way down.
It's a Terry Brooks quote.
Oh, okay. So from that aspect, I found it, the tone and the mood of the documentary worked well in reinforcing that whole concept of aging and dying. And it must have hit him hard. I don't know when he realized that was the passing of the last band member, George Stice, or they must have been talking about it, but between the two of them. But that's quite something, that out of a, what was it, of a 5-6 member band, that he's the last guy alive. And that's pretty sobering. And he must really be counting his blessings, because of I don't know how successful these other band members with whatever they did afterwards, but for Springsteen, he's had the golden ticket his whole life. So he has a lot more to appreciate than any of the members of the band did. But that doesn't mean that their lives were of any less value than his.
Yes, and I think they're shown by his cousin there, right? And they're there and joking about, he taught me my first chords, and the idea that you're getting to sit there. Yeah, I wish I could find it. I could dig it up if I had enough time, but in his autobiography, he goes through that the amount of people who pick up a guitar, then fewer people learn how to make a couple of chords, then a few other people join a band, a few other people actually stay in the band, a few other people might make a demo, then a fewer might get a record contract, and a fewer others might be able to do this a second album, and then a fewer things actually make a living at it, then even fewer actually are what you'd call incredibly successful. Like that shrinking level, he's aware, I think, of his blessings. And I also think it is hard. I think you got to be a little bit of an egotist as well as a humble person to go this kind of career. So and I specifically didn't give you guys any feedback or advanced knowledge of it because I wanted to hear just your thoughts. But one of the things that's different about this is, over the past few years, Bruce has basically, when they're going to record new songs, he does a demo. He plays the bass part. He plays the keyboard part. He plays the lead guitar part. He plays the rhythm part. And when the band comes in, he's playing what he wants them to. And somebody said, "Hey, Bruce, can we not beat the demo this time?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just go in fresh?" And so that's why he's playing the song on a rhythm guitar. And here are all these old guys, because they're all in their 70s, with legal pads and pencils and pens writing down. Lou, I'll start with you. Any thoughts on that now that you know context?
Yeah, I was hoping that the documentary would go into a little more detail as exactly what those guys were doing, because I'm thinking, okay, what are they writing down? I still didn't know by the end of that documentary what they were writing down. Like, are they trying to place their part in the song, or are they just writing down the notes? Or
Yeah.
Or they writing down the tempo changes? I didn't know, and I still don't know what they were doing. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity. I realized that the focus of this documentary was more on the themes of the album as opposed to the mechanics of it. But if I was a bigger Bruce Springsteen fan, and even where I am, I thought I would like to know more about these other members in the band. He didn't spend hardly any time with any of them.
Yeah.
They were ciphers at the start of the documentary, and they were still ciphers at the end. So I think, to me, that was a missed opportunity. I don't know, maybe there's other documentaries where the individual members of the band are explored more, but I think because this was their first album since 2014, if I'm reading the
Yeah.
wiki stuff here, right? So this would be a great opportunity to capture the whole band as well, because like you said, like they're all in their 70s. I don't know if any of them, if they're all still alive. Like this is what, 6 years later.
They're still all alive.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
know?
They just finished a 3-year, not full years, but they did a world tour starting in 23, and then 24, and then they did a very small, like 8 or 9 shows in 25. They have just toured the world. Yeah.
I guess I would have just liked to have more of the personalities of these other people explored, because it's interesting enough, I felt like it was a band for hire almost situation. I felt like he could have taken them out and brought in other musicians and gotten the same result. Maybe
Interesting.
people, big fans, would argue against that, but it sounded like he pretty had in his mind how he wanted the songs to sound. And though he did later on seem to take some advice from particularly Stevie Van Zandt, I don't know if the other people had nearly as much input. But maybe I'm unfairly trying to compare this to like Peter Jackson's Beatles Get Back documentary, which explored all the Beatle members, because they were all so famous individually as well as a group. Whereas the E Street Band, you just get the feeling that they're just like the to the big star kind of feeling.
And he says that in the documentary that they all serve his music.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and so Karen, I want to get your thoughts, but so I'm going to get your thoughts, and then I'm going to follow up with something you said, Lou. But I've always thought it was, and I'm not criticizing because I am not a billionaire and he is, like other bands will say, oh, and now Niels is going to give us one. Little Steven is going to do one, and Bruce doesn't. Bruce is up front center. It is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Yeah. Karen, your thoughts on that? That the whole creative.
First of all, this is going back a little bit, and this may have a little bit to do with the documentary because of the quote. He said turtles all the way down. And the context is where there's a city on the back of a giant turtle. And someone says, okay, what's under that? A turtle. Yeah. And then he says, what's under that? Another turtle. A turtle. And then he goes, it's turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
And here's the backbone of what, also that vastness. There's an infinite kind of feeling about, what do you think about life and death and all that stuff? And I do think, whether he meant it or not, that kind of feeling of the vastness of space, that turtle analogy, whatever, it's all infinity. And he's very philosophical about it. Okay, now on to the other point.
Okay.
I was in drama and music growing up. And I do have to say that a lot of artists that are good and that are lauded, I don't want to say this because I feel like I'm going to hurt you a little bit, Jesse. But
I think Jesse's already made the point that it's part ego as well, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people that are like that, and I admire a lot of them as well, they're very much up their own butt, if that makes sense. A lot of things are like about that person because they're so used to people giving them that praise that it's almost turned into a way of looking at themselves. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's very much that way in acting where it's like acting. They're very serious
Yeah.
and they just take things way too seriously. And I don't see that 100% here because he does include the E Street Band, but
Mhm.
I really would have loved to see you just get a little bit of their personality showing, and you can see how interesting all of those people are. His pianist, for example, he was showing some sass at one point. Hello, Nils Lofgren
Yeah.
and Stevie Van Zandt, as you said, they're all characters. And I don't know if he thought this isn't the place for that, but I would like to see that kind of, hey, let's see how the E Street Band interacts.
Yeah.
Let's see how they are an extension of Bruce.
Yeah.
So I agree. It could have been a little deeper there, and I don't know what they would have cut back on. Maybe just snippets of the music instead of the whole song. I don't know, but I think to me that would have been very interesting to see.
Yeah.
As it is, he does actually show that they all have a contribution, and he does acknowledge that they are an integral part of his musicality.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could have he could have given them a little more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you disagree with me.
No, it is. He talks about that to be successful, you have one person telling you're the greatest thing ever, and another thing says you're a piece of shit.
Right.
And he says, as an artist, I feel both some days.
Some days, right?
Yeah, some day,
Yeah.
depending on the thing. I know he has said he was chosen for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And little Steven, who they have remained friends their whole lives since high school, said, no, don't go into the Hall of Fame without us. And he said, maybe a little bit of ego, maybe a little bit of hurt feelings. I went. He says, and now then, this is when they were being nominated for the Hall of Fame. He introduced them. He said, but looking back, I now know that Stephen was right, that it
Yeah.
is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
And
It is
yeah.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It
Right.
is James Brown and the Flames, right?
Mhm.
1 + 1 = 3. And so they are better than the thought. I did want, when I was watching this the first time, and I do think in context, this is to sell an album. Right? I
Right.
mean, this is to sell Letter to You. So is it independent? Sure. But I also think this is partly that. But I felt, and I'd love both of y'all's thoughts, and we'll start with you, Lou. When I saw little Steven talking to him, I understood why Steven said, I knew my character on The Sopranos because I had done this my career,
Yep.
speaking to power. I
Yep.
see you're nodding, Karen. Did you catch
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
Lou?
I haven't watched The Sopranos,
Okay, okay.
but
Oh.
I could see that out of at least from what the documentary showed, it seemed like Steve had the most influence over on Bruce, or was the most willing to speak up.
Yeah.
On a side note, I don't think Steve looks very good in this documentary. He's very bloated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Out of
if
all of the band members, he looks the worst.
and actually if you Google before he went on the tour in 23, he is incredibly thin.
Hmm.
He drops a lot of weight
Hmm.
to get ready. But yes, and it's especially jarring now that I see what he looks like now. If you Google, he really did a lot of weight loss. Yeah. I just was in the symposium in Jersey, and Gary Talent was, which is the bass player. And when they asked Gary a question, he gave one word answers and had just, I don't remember anything.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah. And Max, on the other hand, told great stories. And I think that was the reason why Max was on Conan, and Niels has had his own career. So it
He
is,
has to turn as well too.
yeah. And
He has an
so,
economy of words.
and you notice he's the only one drinking coffee when they're doing
Yep.
he is very
The
famously,
toasts.
yeah, he is very famously sober. So I I'm not offended by that, Karen, and I'm not offended, period. But if I take any the umbrage is that the songs sound the same, but I'm gonna let that go, Lou. Uh
Good.
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna defend Lou a little bit here. And I know you're gonna take umbrage with me as well, but
safe zone.
he has a formula.
And this album especially, I
Mhm.
think there are very different
Opening
versus,
quiet
yeah,
solo with Bruce. Then
yeah,
the drums start up. Then
yeah,
everybody else comes in. That happened like on, geez, I don't know, 7 of the 9, 10 songs or
yeah,
whatever it was.
yeah,
Very similar style. I have to say though, Bruce's voice sounded really good
Great.
and clear. I don't
Yeah.
think
yeah,
I've heard him enunciate words so clearly. Maybe it was just the
mhm,
quality of the recording or the
yeah,
studio, but he
yeah,
sounded really good, and he actually looked good
yeah,
Yeah, I
for his
agree.
age. Yeah.
yeah. And it was, I was, I talked to Maureen Van Zant, Little Steven's wife, after this had come out. And I said, I was curious, like, when this is going to happen. Is it a sleepover? Do they bring sleeping bags? I'm like, oh, we're hanging at Bruce for the next 3 or 4 days. So it was fun to see that.
So what did they do?
They went and they would go
Stayed?
home and they'd come back.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. They
Yeah.
live that close to each other?
Or he put them up in hotels. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
in. This was done in Jersey somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually his farm, and this is his recording studio.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that a guy his age would to live in the winter. Figured they'd all go south or something.
Yeah. I
I
think
mean, he's
really,
used to it,
Yeah,
so
I know
yeah.
he is, but when you get older,
Yeah.
the cold settles in the bones a little longer.
Yeah. I wonder if that he just loves being near the studio. And they have a beautiful big ranch with a lot of horses and stuff.
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah.
beautiful property. I assume that's where all
mm,
those drone shots were from.
Yeah. Any He wrote the score as well. So all the instrumentation between his verbiage, which he wrote. So I was really impressed by that how nice that music fit with the story. Any thoughts on that, Karen?
yeah, it was nice. It was inobtrusive, but it was very different from his normal style, I
Yeah.
have to say. And I find that refreshing. I would love to see him do, I don't know, a different kind of like something well out of his comfort zone. I
So,
don't think that's going to happen
mhm.
anytime soon, but and I know he's done some stuff out of his comfort zone, but I'd love to hear his modern lyrical mindset in another, like almost a countrified version instead of this folksy singer-songwriter kind of
A little more
tone.
rock, less folk. Is what you're trying to
There you
say.
go. That would be good too. But anything really, and that sweeping kind of music that's in an instrumental would be really fantastic for him to do a song in.
So I will send you links to this box set he just put out, 7 unreleased albums.
You
There is
already
one.
gave us that.
Okay, so if you
Yeah.
guys have listened to any of it, Faithless is the one that was for a score for a Western.
That got
And if you listen to those, there is some instrumentals and more of a feeling. And then Twilight Hours is his crooner album, where he is
okay.
doing his version of Sinatra songs.
Okay. I
So
just
very different.
This album is very much an introspective album, and having that at least one or two songs in a very different style, I think would have been effective.
Yeah,
I don't know how the fans would take it at all, but I
yeah,
think it would have been cool to hear some of these very sad lyrics in another style.
yeah.
Again, that's just me.
No, I get you. Curious if you guys thought of, so If I Was the Priest, which is the song he talked about that he wrote in the early 70s. He'd never recorded. There had been, according to Springsteen lore, he had played it once in the early 70s for John Hammond, which is the guy who signed him on Columbia. And then I was there in Houston, Texas in 23, where he said, I still don't know what this effing song is about, and he played it. That was if Jesus was the sheriff and I was the priest. It's a very odd song. Any thoughts on that one specifically, Lou?
No, not really.
Okay, that's okay.
No,
Yeah, Karen?
no, I got nothing. Sorry.
Okay, that's
No, I
fine.
had a couple of other songs
Okay,
that struck a chord.
okay.
Struck a chord. Get it?
Yes, yes. Yeah, if I did not know there and you learn things and I was there is a and it there is a line where let me pull it up. She goes, Sweet Virgin Mary runs the Holy Grail Saloon. With a nickel, she'll give you whiskey and a personally balloon. That's a condom. I did not realize
Okay.
that. So very different. All right. So Karen, what are some songs that you have thoughts about?
I very much liked
Yeah.
Ghosts.
Yeah.
And I thought the House of a Thousand Guitars was pretty cool too. I hate repeating myself, but
That's
like I
okay.
said,
No.
I was very into music growing up, and so I found the words in that one
Hmm.
hit me a little bit.
Yeah.
And just
And there is a shot against Trump in there.
a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. But the words were very cool. I actually rewinded at that point and listened to that again with my eyes closed
Yeah.
because I just loved the words of that one.
Hmm.
And picturing, he's very proud of his guitars.
Yes.
He shows, these are my guitars. He
Yeah.
shows them
Yeah. And he
in
has
here.
tons of guitars.
Right. And I
He,
think it's a very personal thing
mhm.
to him. Means it literally and also figuratively as well in that song. So I love that a lot. And then Ghosts was, I think that could also be the theme of this album, is he's looking at a lot of ghosts in his life.
Yes. Yeah. Lou,
I, I
anything?
think the track that stood out to me actually was the title track of the documentary, Letter to You, because it really reminded me of John Lennon's Now and Then.
Yeah.
I thought that that's the same kind of themes. And yeah, I think that was the song that stood out to me the most. Also, I'll See You in My Dreams, I think was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Again, the other ones, yeah.
Yeah. I
They're okay.
loved,
It's hard to give a good definitive answer because songs I need to listen to them for a
yes,
while and let them
absolutely.
percolate.
Yeah.
The first listen is usually probably my least favorable for anything.
Yeah. I loved Power Prayer just because I do feel like music at time is a way to commune with.
Yeah, that was a good. At least the story
Yeah.
behind the
Mm-hmm.
song was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought the use of file footage and older footage, I did think it was interesting and you catch this more on second viewings where they show the old version of Gary and then the new version to show how they've changed over the years. The so I realized that there is a story that is about he's absolutely dealing with death. And when he toured in 23, multiple Letter to You, Ghosts, House of a Thousand Guitars, I'll See You in My Dreams made the set list. He played them.
Cool.
And he talked about that. And it was, I think, a lot about the road in front of us is shorter than the road behind us and how you deal with that, I think is really powerful. Yeah,
It's nice that we picked out the songs that he.
yeah, I really, and I thought They're doing I'll See You in My Dreams, and they focus on John Landau. That was the older man that has his glasses that was crying. John Landau is the guy that was a Rolling Stone critic, and he saw Bruce and he said, I've seen the future of rock and roll, and it's Bruce Springsteen. And they got to be friends. And then Bruce hired him as his manager. And that and Barbara Carr have managed him ever since 78. And so you'll see when we watch Delivery from Nowhere, he is a major character in the movie about the making of Nebraska. And so I thought it showed how the song was affecting him. Any thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I like that he was there, and
But
you
because
could
I didn't know
tell.
who he was, I didn't know what the
I didn't
context of
either.
his reaction
Yeah,
was.
and I thought of that. I bet you they don't know
I
who
didn't.
he is.
Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
kind of going, oh,
I just looked him up
he's
so I could
old. You get
see.
old, you start
Yeah.
to get weepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy
So I could
Str-
see his
yeah.
face, and yeah, I loved how emotional he got over it.
Yeah, Jeremy Strong is who's going to play him in the movie.
Yeah, that
from
Oh,
scene in
that's
the
cool.
trailer stands out. Like he says, I believe in Bruce Springsteen. If this is the same guy, I wish I had known that, but I didn't.
Yeah, it is the exact same guy. Yeah. So any final thoughts before I get you guys out of here? Lou.
Like I said, it's your reaction to this is going to vary depending on how deep of a Bruce Springsteen fan you are. If you're a big fan, I'm sure you'll love it. If you're more casual like I am, there's things that I missed. I realized that the purpose of this documentary was to sell this album, as you mentioned earlier, but I would have liked to seen a more fleshed out E Street Band portion of this. I think there was, with the timing that they hadn't been together for since 2014, 5 years. It's not a long time, but still at their age, that might it potentially could have been the last time they were together as a group. And I really think that they missed a big opportunity to flesh that out. And they could have done that like the Peter Jackson Let It Be Beatles documentary, which was like 6 hours or something in 3 parts. That's something that they could have done the same kind of approach here, but it is what it is. So keeping that wish out of my mind, it's a very well put together and beautifully filmed documentary. The style choices were interesting, and overall I did like them. And it shows that in the recording room, Bruce is the boss.
Yes. Interesting. Karen?
That's an apt name.
Yes.
That's his real name.
That's where he got it from, I imagine.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Actually, he got it from, and for the longest time, he hated it. He hated that nickname. He was the one who always had to pay the band. And so that's where the boss came from, is he's the one who paid the band. And yes.
Why do I not know that? I really should have known that.
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
No, I've grown up with Bruce Springsteen as part of the soundtrack of my life.
Yeah.
I started listening to music in 1977, 78.
Yeah.
Somewhere near then.
Yeah, I went to his Born in the USA concert.
I know,
awesome.
And I'm always jealous of that. I am always jealous of that. I am so jealous of that. Yep. Always jealous of that.
So, yeah.
That was peak Bruce.
I think, as Lou said, it was a beautifully filmed documentary. Again, I also get this was a kind of a companion piece to the album.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really meant to be a strict documentary. And I think that Columbia, I'm assuming Columbia was behind the production of this as well, and Apple Plus maybe. I think they did a really good job with, if that's their aim, which it was definitely. I also remember a lot of bands growing up having companion pieces to their albums, like stuff that was on like ABC at night or whatever, trying to sell their album, and it being owned by the parent company of ABC. So they put on this little special to highlight. And there's nothing wrong with those at all. I do think that it was framed more as, let's talk about life and death and that kind of thing. I wish they maybe would have been more open. Hey, here's my album, listen to it. But I do
Hmm.
think the theme of that being the album's theme, that makes complete sense to me. And I agree. I would love to have seeing behind the scenes of them kind of getting along and more collaboration. I don't know if that happens. So that would be if that happens, I would love to see it because it didn't seem like a huge collaboration to me. Although there was input from
Yeah,
several other people. The drum the drummer and
Max.
the pianist and Stevie, they all gave some input here and there. And I love that Bruce took it on board as
Yeah,
well, which is something he didn't have to do. And I would hope that they do have some input since they're the ones playing the instruments and they know more about how their instrument would fit into the song. And I know Bruce plays all those instruments too, but they have an innate feeling about how their instrument is played. And
yeah,
so I would love to see how each of them considers their role in the E Street Band.
yeah,
That's all. And I'm sorry, I love Nils Lofgren.
yeah,
And to see him, he's just laying back
yeah,
and when someone says something funny, he's yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, a little bit of seeing that in the Road Diary, where they talk about the latest tour and why he chose the songs he chose. But yeah, Tom Zimney, who done this, is basically Bruce's official biographer, filmmaker. And this is like the fifth or sixth film they've worked on
mm,
together. He's the one that directed Western Stars. So yeah, I think that's a fair it is I, I think that's an actual it's a good thing to talk about that you wanted to know more about this E Street Band and
yeah.
to see the film I watched on Friday night when I was in Jersey, Jungle Land was the band recording Jungle Land, and there was no narration, there was no cutaways. It was just the band working on that is not available yet, but it is more of that. How do we do this? But even then, Bruce was a little bit of a jerk. Hey, you missed that note. He's Chris watched this with me and he said, "Boy, you can tell why he's the boss. He is strong."
Yeah,
So,
and I think that's an aspect of people who are that successful in their chosen industry is you have to be confident in yourself.
yeah.
And sometimes that goes a little bit too far into
Well,
the I'm going to be a dick kind of.
yeah, and one I don't know if I saved it, but he was invited to do a South by Southwest in Austin and he was doing a the keynote and says, "So, young musicians, rumble. Open your ears and open your hearts. Don't take yourself too seriously and take yourself as seriously as death itself. Don't worry your ass off. Have ironclad confidence, but doubt. It keeps you awake and alert. Believe you're the baddest ass in town and you suck." And so I think that's the idea of right keeping it both together. I
Yeah,
love
but Bruce doesn't have to worry about all the other stuff anymore.
no.
So a lot
Uh,
of it is have confidence in myself
yeah,
and be happy with what I'm doing. And you could see that. Fair point. He worked hard for where he got.
yeah,
And he is incredibly influential in the music business. So
yeah,
yeah, I
good.
see where it comes from.
Yes.
100%. I just would like a little less of it. That's all.
Yeah, I get you. I got it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for putting up with me and letting me share this. And I'm glad.
Anytime.
Yes.
These are
Uh,
worth watching. They
yeah.
really are worth watching.
And so if someone wants to reach you, Karen, how can they?
They can email us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. And I'm at Aliveria on social media. And my blog is alistuff.com.
And Lou?
You can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you'll find this podcast, JKL Media Reviews. Oh, sorry, you can Start over. You can find me on Loose Reviews on YouTube, where I have our archived episodes, as well as the Babylon 5 podcast that we've done, and the animated movie, as well as my writer podcast and Stephen King podcast on JKL Media. You'll find our latest episodes of JKL Media Reviews, which includes this Bruce Springsteen episode, as well as other movie, books, and TV shows that we are reviewing as well. And on
Good.
Twitter, you can find me at lou.w.sytsma, SYTSMA, and Blue Sky as well.
Thank you both. Spending time with you guys on Sunday morning is always a joy. I
Agreed.
appreciate with that. And one of the things that you guys mentioned is his I'll see you in my dreams. And so I'm going to end with that because I think it is absolutely beautiful. I'll see you in my dreams where all our summers have come to an end. I'll see you in my dreams. We'll meet and live and laugh again. I'll see you in my dreams, yeah, up around the river bend, for death is not the end, and I'll see you in my dreams. Be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.